Hey guys, it's Salvaje. Here's my Fortnite Save the World weapon review for the Guardian's Will, and if you guys would like up this video, I would really appreciate that because I literally woke up like 4 hours ago. I haven't eaten breakfast just to get out this review to you guys. I would just really appreciate that. If you want to use my supporter creator code, by the way, it's Salvaje. Okay, let's get right into the Guardian's Will review. You can unlock this weapon by surviving for 30 minutes in the week 4 Frost Night event. So let's just point out a couple of things, okay? I don't like to review melee weapons in Save the World because the state of melee weapons in Fortnite Save the World isn't really the best, okay? I just want to put that out there. Things like explosive death burst, healing death burst, slow floors, slowing pools, just make melee weapons not really very viable. However, I don't want to, I don't want to review the sword based on, its performance on the meta, I guess you could say. And most importantly, I don't want to review the sword based on its individual performance, right? I feel like every single melee review, that we have on YouTube when it comes down to Save the World, people are just saying that the weapon's bad just because they judge it on the individual performance, okay? I'm not going to be doing that. As always, there are requisites in my Save the World weapon reviews. Those are linked in the description of the video. So let's get right into it. The Guardian's Will actually does some pretty decent damage. I tested 2 Guardian's Will. I played for about an hour and a half testing both of the swords at the same time. And I found throughout my testing that the attack speed build, I used a full legendary perk attack speed build for the first Guardian Will, which my friend Binge gave me. And it didn't really feel as consistent, right? At least not as consistent as my critical rating, critical damage build of the Guardian's Will. And the Guardian's Will actually comes with critical rating, critical damage by default. So that means you guys can definitely, of course, go ahead and use this build. And of course, when it comes down to builds and recommended perks, we're going to talk about that later. But what I'm trying to say is when it comes down to the critical rating, critical damage build that I used for the Guardian's Will, it was dishing out a lot of damage. Now, don't get me wrong. The swing speed on this thing is terrible if you go for a critical rating, critical damage build. However, it is definitely worth it. The massive amounts of damage, like 70,000, 80,000, sometimes 90,000 damage hits that this sword was providing was basically making up for the, what's this thing called, for the slow swing speed, okay? The slow swing speed really wasn't much of an issue to me when it came down to, me reviewing this weapon and me testing out this weapon. For the most part, I found that basic husks would either completely get deleted by one swing, or by the second swing, the basic husk was basically just deleted. I realized, however, that this sword is really bad if you're like surrounded by a lot of blasters. But then again, if you're surrounded by a lot of blasters, obviously the obvious thing to do is to take on an assault rifle or a bundle bus, for example. So I'm not going to be sort of talking down on the sword because of that, right? One of the things that I also really appreciate about this sword, since the damage was actually really good on it, I realized that I never really had a situation where I was very overwhelmed by a lot of husks, because every single husk that was right in front of me was basically just getting destroyed. And don't get me wrong, the attack speed build was fully legendary perked. I don't know if I said that already, and it was sort of helping me out sometimes when it came down to basic husk. However, I feel like the critical rating crit damage build sort of got me farther when it comes down to damage. Husky Husk would basically just get 2 taps sometimes. They would just get completely deleted. Smashers and Mist Monsters, I would usually delete them with the sword within an average of about, I'm going to say 8 to 12 seconds, which is basically almost the same amount of time that it would probably take you to take out a Smasher if you was using a full legendary perk Siegebreaker, for example. So I just want to point that out. When it comes down to damage, this sword definitely brings in the damage, and even though it has the slow attack speed, again, I don't really think it holds the weapon back. Like I said, I don't want to review the sword based on its individual performance either, just like, I review other weapons. When it came down to a team-based environment where my gadgets, abilities, and teammates were also in play, the sword just performed really well as well. Again, basically every single husk that was right in front of me was going to get destroyed by the sword. And if I wasn't able to finish off a high priority target with this sword, I was able to just simply use one of my abilities. But for the most part, again, every single thing that was in front of me was getting melted. Alright, so when it comes down to recommended perks, critical rating, armor, damage, and critical damage, physical for the elements or energy, whatever it is that you want to put there, okay? I found throughout my testing that the armor helped me out a lot. However, I do want to mess around with this sword just a little bit more and see if heavy attack efficiency can also help out, because again, the heavy attack on this sword was actually kind of helping me out sometimes. It was stunning some mist monsters, it was stunning some Husky Husk as well. I felt really powerful with this thing, and if you combo the heavy attack with like some sort of ability like a grenade, for example, or a shockwave, it can of course add a lot of value into the targets that of course you're fighting. However, I do think that armor is a pretty decent perk. Guys, this is actually a pretty decent sword, alright? It's really good. I really enjoyed my time using it, and I thought I wasn't because I'm not a huge melee weapons guy. This weapon sort of justified why I should use a melee weapon in Save the World, which, you know what? That's why for the star rating, I'm going to give the sword a 5 out of 5 stars, alright? Because this is a sword that dishes out a ton of damage, and it covers up for its weaknesses. Anyways, last but not least, the last perk on this thing, you rarely notice that you need it in the first place because you're melting so many basic Husk and Husky Husk in front of you that you just feel like the last perk is never really proccing. But it does proc from time to time. Anyways, that's it for this Save the World weapon review. Check out the Save the World weapon reviews playlist in the description below for more reviews on the recent weapons that we've had. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop it a like and subscribe to join the Salvaje cartel.